Hey Taurus, come sit with me for a moment because I just finished a reading that honestly left me sitting here in silence for a good 20 minutes. I needed to gather my thoughts before I could even begin to share this with you. You know how sometimes the cards just reveal something so profound that it feels like the universe itself stopped to make sure you were paying attention? That's exactly what happened here. So I was doing this reading specifically for Taurus energy, and I have to tell you, what came through was absolutely extraordinary. We're talking about a situation involving someone who has been working against you, someone who thought they had all the power, all the control. But here's what the universe wants you to know right now. And I'm getting chills just thinking about how to explain this to you. There's been someone in your life, Taurus, and this person has been obsessed with trying to control your path. I'm not talking about casual jealousy or simple competition. This goes so much deeper than that. This is someone who has genuinely believed they could manipulate outcomes, someone who has been so convinced of their own power that they cross lines most people wouldn't even dare to approach. The energy here is showing me ritualistic behavior, intentional negative focus directed at you, and honestly, it's pretty dark stuff. But before I even pulled the first card, something unusual happened. I had set up my space the way I always do, getting into that receptive state where I can really tune into the energy. And as I was shuffling, focusing on Taurus energy and what's happening right now in your sphere, I felt this sudden shift. It was like the air itself changed. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and you just know something significant just happened there? It was exactly like that. Let me pull the first card here because this is where things start to get really interesting. The card coming through first is showing me the nature of what's been happening behind the scenes. And Taurus, you need to understand the full scope of this situation. The first card I'm seeing here is Five of Cups. And okay, let me tell you why this is so significant in this particular reading. This card is showing me someone who has been utterly consumed by what they feel they lost when it comes to you. This isn't just about missing you or regretting something simple. This person has been dwelling in a space of such intense grief and obsession over what they couldn't have or couldn't control with you that it literally became toxic. When Five of Cups shows up in this position, it's revealing someone who has been so fixated on the cups that are spilled, so focused on what went wrong or what they couldn't manipulate, that they've completely lost perspective. And here's what's really intense about this energy, Taurus. This person didn't just sit around feeling sad, they took action. Dark action. The kind of action that comes from someone who is so desperate to regain control or to somehow impact your path that they were willing to use methods most people wouldn't even consider. The Five of Cups in this context is showing me someone who has been performing actual rituals. Now, I know how that might sound, but stay with me here because the cards are being very specific about this. This person has been using your image, your photo, your energy signature in practices designed to influence, to bind, to redirect your fortune away from you. They've been sitting in their space, surrounded by those 3 spilled cups of grief and resentment, trying to weaponize that pain against you. What's fascinating is how the Five of Cups reveals the psychology here. This person genuinely believed that their sorrow, their sense of loss regarding you, gave them some kind of claim over your energy. They felt entitled to interfere because in their mind, you somehow wronged them by not being controllable, by not fitting into whatever box they tried to put you in. The 2 cups still standing in this card represent the small shreds of power they thought they still had, the little bit of influence they believed they could still exert. I'm seeing this person in their space, probably late at night because that's when these energies are typically worked with, surrounded by candles, with your photograph placed in a very specific position. They've been speaking words over your image, trying to redirect your path, trying to create obstacles for you, trying to diminish your light. And the really disturbing part that the Five of Cups is revealing is that this wasn't just done once or twice. This has been a sustained effort, a repeated practice, done with genuine belief that it would work. The grief and obsession represented by those spilled cups has been the fuel for all of this. Every time they performed these practices, they were pouring their resentment, their anger, their desperate need for control into the ritual. Your photo has been sitting in the center of all this negative intention, absorbing all these attempts to manipulate your path. They've been so convinced that their pain gave them power over you, so certain that their rituals would bend your reality to their will. But here's what's absolutely crucial about this Five of Cups energy, and this is where things start to shift into something much more powerful. The figure in this card is always shown with their back to those two remaining cups, those two vessels of potential that are still full. This person has been so consumed by their dark practices, so obsessed with trying to control you through these methods, that they've been completely blind to what's actually happening in the spiritual realm. They thought they were working with power. They thought they had tapped into something dark and effective. They believed with absolute certainty that their rituals were binding you, limiting you, affecting your path. The Five of Cups shows how they've been wallowing in this dark practice, feeding it with their grief and rage, absolutely convinced of its effectiveness. But they had no idea, Taurus, absolutely no idea what was actually happening behind the scenes in the realm they thought they were manipulating. Let me pull the next card because this is where the story takes a turn that honestly gave me absolute chills when it came through. The Chariot is what comes through next. And Taurus, when I tell you that this card appearing right after the Five of Cups created such a powerful message, I mean, it literally made me stop and just stare at these cards for a solid few minutes. Because the Chariot in this position is revealing your energy, your truth, your actual spiritual protection that this person had no clue they were up against. The Chariot is showing me that while this person was performing their little rituals, while they were burning their candles and speaking their words over your photo, you were actually moving forward under divine protection that they couldn't even begin to comprehend. You've been progressing, Taurus, advancing toward your destiny with spiritual forces guiding your chariot that are so far beyond what this person could ever touch. What's really powerful about the Chariot here is that it represents victory through spiritual alignment, success that comes because you're moving in the direction you're meant to go. Those two sphinxes pulling the Chariot in different directions represent the balance of forces, the harmony of opposing energies that you've achieved in your own path. And here's what this person with their Five of Cups energy completely failed to understand. You can't curse someone who is aligned with their highest path. You can't bind someone who is being pulled forward by destiny itself. The Chariot is revealing that every single time they tried to create obstacles for you, every single ritual they performed with your photo at the center, they were essentially trying to stop a vehicle that's being driven by forces they can't even see. Imagine someone standing in front of a massive chariot being pulled by spiritual forces, thinking their little words and candles could make it stop. That's literally what's been happening here. And what makes this even more significant is that the Chariot shows mastery over opposing forces. This card is telling me that not only were you protected from their attempts, but you were actually using the energy of forward momentum so powerfully that their negative intentions couldn't even get close to you. It's like you've been surrounded by this moving force field of divine will, and everything they threw at you just bounced off harmlessly. The warrior in the Chariot sits confidently, holding the reins with certainty, crowned with stars representing divine connection. This is showing me that your path has been guided by something so much higher than the petty dark practices this person was engaging in. They were playing in the shadows while you were literally being escorted by light. They thought they were affecting you. They believed so completely in the power of their rituals. But the entire time you were advancing, growing, moving toward everything you're meant to experience. What the Chariot is also revealing here is determination and willpower that cannot be broken by external forces. This person tried to break your will, tried to create doubt, tried to make your path difficult. But the truth is that your determination, your inner strength, your alignment with your purpose has been so solid that their attempts were like trying to stop a river with a paper dam, completely ineffective. The Sphinx energy in this card is particularly significant too. Sphinxes represent ancient wisdom, mysteries, spiritual truth. They pull the chariot forward, representing that your movement isn't just physical or material, it's deeply spiritual. You've been advancing on a soul level, growing in ways this person couldn't even perceive. They were trying to affect your surface reality while your soul was ascending to levels they couldn't reach. And here's something really beautiful about the chariot appearing after that Five of Cups energy. It's showing the complete contrast between someone who is stuck in grief and resentment, trying to manipulate from a place of lack, versus someone who is moving forward from a place of alignment and divine support. They've been stationary, dwelling on spilled cups, while you've been in motion, advancing toward your victory. The difference in these energies is stark, and it tells such a complete story. The chariot is also telling me about your focus during this time. While they were focused on you obsessively, burning your photo, speaking your name in their rituals, you were focused on your path, your goals, your growth. Your attention was forward while theirs was stuck in the past and in their resentment. And that difference in focus is part of why their practices had no power. You weren't engaged in their game. You were playing an entirely different game on an entirely different level. Now I need to pull the next card because this is where things start to get absolutely wild. And I do mean wild in a way that even I wasn't fully prepared for when it came through. The Tower is coming through, and Taurus, let me explain what this means in the context of everything I've already shared. The Tower is the card of divine intervention, sudden collapse, truth revealed, and structures built on false foundations completely crumbling. And in this situation, the Tower is representing what happened to their entire ritual practice, what happened to all their carefully laid plans, what happened to their belief that they had any power over you whatsoever. Something happened during one of their rituals, something they absolutely did not expect and could not have prepared for. The Tower represents that moment when the universe itself intervenes, when divine forces say enough is enough, when spiritual truth literally destroys the false structures someone has built. And what I'm seeing with the Tower here is that during one of their ritual practices, something occurred that shattered their entire belief system. Your photograph, the one they had been using as the centerpiece of their rituals, the image they had been focusing all their negative intention upon, something happened to it that defied all natural explanation. The Tower energy is showing me this sudden, shocking event that occurred right in the middle of their practice. They were there, performing their ritual, speaking their words, burning their candles, feeling so confident in their power, and then boom, the Tower moment hit. I'm seeing this image fly. Not just fall over, not just get knocked aside by a draft or a breeze. I'm talking about your photo literally flying through the air, moving with force, moving in a way that could not be explained by any natural cause. The Tower shows lightning striking from above, divine intervention coming down with unmistakable power, and that's exactly what happened in their space. The photograph flew across the room, and in that moment, everything they believed about their power, their control, their ability to affect you, came crashing down like a tower struck by divine lightning. Can you imagine, Taurus? This person is there, deep in their practice, convinced they're working with dark forces, feeling powerful, feeling like they have you bound somehow, and suddenly your photo just launches itself away from their altar, their setup, their entire ritual space. The Tower represents that moment of absolute shock, that instant where reality completely contradicts what someone believed to be true. Their tower of false confidence, built on the shaky foundation of thinking they could control your path, came tumbling down in the most dramatic way possible. The Tower is showing me their face in that moment, the absolute terror, the confusion, the sudden realization that they are not dealing with what they thought they were dealing with. They thought they were in control of the situation, directing the energy, manipulating the forces. But the Tower reveals the truth. They were never in control, not even close. They had built this entire belief system, this structure of supposed power, on completely false assumptions. And in one dramatic moment, it all fell apart. What's really significant about the Tower in this context is that this card represents irreversible change, truth that cannot be hidden once revealed, understanding that completely transforms someone. After the Tower strikes, You can't go back to believing what you believed before. This person can't unhear what they heard, can't unsee what they saw, can't unfeel what they felt in that moment. Their photo of you flying across the room wasn't just a weird occurrence, it was a message, a warning, a revelation of truth that shattered everything. The lightning striking, the tower comes from above, from divine source, and that's exactly what this was. This wasn't just karma, this wasn't just energy bouncing back, this was direct intervention from spiritual forces that said, no, you don't get to do this, you don't get to continue these practices, you don't get to try to harm this soul who is under protection. The force that moved your photograph was the same force that strikes the tower in the card. Divine power that cannot be argued with or resisted. And here's what the tower is also revealing about this person's psychological state after this happened. They are terrified. Not just startled, not just confused, genuinely terrified. They realized in that instant that they were playing with forces they don't understand, messing with someone they should have left alone, engaging in practices that brought them face to face with powers that are so far beyond their comprehension. The tower strips away false confidence and leaves only truth. And the truth they were confronted with is that they are powerless. They were always powerless. And their rituals were never going to work because you are protected by something they can't touch. The people falling from the tower in the card's imagery represent the fall from false heights, from positions of imagined power. This person thought they were operating from a position of strength, thought they had climbed high in their understanding of these dark practices, but the tower showed them they were standing on nothing, building on air, believing in power they never had. And the fall from that false height is devastating, shocking, absolutely transformative in the worst possible way for them. Now let me pull the next card because we need to understand what's happening right now in this present moment as a result of everything that's occurred. The devil is coming through, and this is such a powerful card in this position because it's revealing the true nature of what this person has been dealing with, what they've been playing with, what they thought they could control. The devil represents bondage, addiction, unhealthy attachments, and dark energies that bind rather than free. And in this reading, the devil is showing me that this person hasn't just been performing casual negative rituals. They've been dealing with genuinely dark energies, forces that they thought were serving them, but were actually binding them. When the devil appears after the tower, it's revealing what's been lurking beneath all along. This person thought they were the master, the one in control, the one directing these dark forces for their own purposes. But the devil reveals the truth. They've been the one who is bound, the one who is trapped, the one who is chained to forces that are so much more powerful than they realized. Those chains in the devil card, the ones around the necks of the two figures, that's this person, that's their true condition, believing they're free while being completely enslaved. The devil is showing me that when your photograph flew away during their ritual, when the tower moment happened, it wasn't just your photo rejecting their energy. It was the dark forces they thought they were controlling, essentially revealing their true nature. The sudden understanding that they're not working with these energies, they're trapped by them. The ritual breaking apart, the photo flying away, it was like the chains became visible for the first time. What's really intense about the devil energy here is that it represents obsession, unhealthy fixation, being trapped in a cycle of negativity. This person has been so obsessed with you, so fixated on trying to control you or harm you, that they've literally bound themselves to you in the most unhealthy way possible. Every ritual they performed, every time they used your photo, every word they spoke over your image, they were creating chains that tied them to you energetically. They thought they were binding you, but the devil reveals they were binding themselves. The horned figure in the devil card represents false power, the illusion of being in control when you're actually enslaved. This person genuinely believed they had power, that their rituals were effective, that they could manipulate your reality. But the devil is showing that their belief in their own power was the very thing keeping them trapped. They've been serving these dark energies, feeding them with their obsession, their resentment, their need for control, and those energies have been feeding on them in return. What the devil is also revealing is that this person is now terrified because they've realized they can't just stop. They can't just walk away from these practices. The chains are real now, visible now, undeniable now. When your photo flew away when the tower struck, they came face to face with what they've actually been dealing with. And the terror of that realization is profound. They're stuck, bound to practices they thought they controlled, trapped in an obsession they can't break free from, chained to energies that are so much darker than they understood. The inverted pentagram above the devil's head represents spirituality inverted, divine connection turned upside down, working against natural spiritual law. This person has been working against you, yes, but more significantly, they've been working against universal spiritual law, against divine order, against the very forces that govern how energy moves in this universe. And the devil is showing that this inversion, this going against natural law, has consequences they're now facing directly. I'm seeing this person in their space after that tower moment, after your photo flew away, and they're standing there in absolute shock, looking at the chains that have suddenly become visible to them. The dark energies they thought were their servants are actually their masters. The power they thought they had was actually their prison. The control they believed they exerted was actually the control exerted over them. The devil reveals all of this in the most devastating way. And here's what's particularly significant about the devil appearing in this sequence. It's not just showing their bondage, it's showing that they've reached a point where they're so entangled in these dark practices, so chained to these energies, that even if they wanted to stop, even if they're terrified now, breaking free is going to be incredibly difficult for them. They've fed these energies with their obsession for so long that the chains are strong, real, binding. The devil also represents materialism, focusing on the physical while ignoring the spiritual, and that's exactly what this person did. They were so focused on the material outcome they wanted, on controlling your physical reality, on manifesting harm in your tangible life, that they completely ignored the spiritual consequences of their actions. They didn't consider what happens to someone who deliberately tries to harm another soul who is under divine protection. They didn't think about the spiritual laws they were breaking. The devil shows how this material focus has trapped them in a very physical, very real way. Let me pull the next card, because we need to see what's happening with the energies they were trying to use, what's happening with the forces they thought they commanded. Page of Swords is coming through, and this is fascinating because the pages represent messages, new information, communication, and revelations. The sword suit deals with thoughts, mental energy, truth, and cutting through illusion. So Page of Swords in this position is revealing that there are messages coming through, information being revealed, truths being communicated about this entire situation that this person never expected. The Page of Swords is showing me surveillance energy, someone who is watchful, who is learning, who is gathering information. But in this context, after the devil, after the tower, after everything we've seen, this card is revealing that this person is now being watched, monitored, observed by spiritual forces they weren't aware of. They thought they were operating in secret, performing their rituals in private, doing their dark work where no one could see. But Page of Swords is revealing that everything has been witnessed, everything has been recorded, every single thing they've done has been seen and known. What's really significant about Page of Swords here is that this card represents the beginning of information coming to light, the start of truth being revealed. That moment when your photo flew away, when the tower struck, that was just the beginning of revelations this person is going to face. Page of Swords is showing that messages are coming, information is being delivered, truths are being communicated to them in ways they cannot ignore. The young person in the Page of Swords holds their sword up, alert, ready, watching. This represents the spiritual forces that have been monitoring this situation from the beginning. This person thought they were alone in their dark practices, thought no one knew what they were doing. But Page of Swords reveals that there have been watchful energies present the entire time, spiritual forces that were observing, waiting, gathering information about every single thing they did. I'm seeing this person starting to realize that things they thought were private weren't private at all. The Page of Swords brings messages, and the messages this person is receiving are about how much is known, how much has been seen, how much has been witnessed. They're starting to understand that they weren't operating in secret. They were operating in full view of spiritual forces that were simply waiting for the right moment to intervene. The Page of Swords also represents new understanding, fresh mental clarity, truth cutting through confusion. After the Tower moment, after the devil revealed their bondage, Page of Swords is showing that this person is now beginning to truly understand what they've done, what they've been involved with, what the consequences of their actions are going to be. New information is flooding into their awareness. Things they were blind to before are becoming crystal clear. And this new understanding is absolutely terrifying for them. What's also important about Page of Swords is that this card can represent spying, investigation, surveillance. In this situation, it's revealing that not only have spiritual forces been watching this person, but there's also a sense that others may become aware of what they've been doing, their secret practices, their hidden rituals, their obsessive attempts to harm you. These things that they thought were completely private might not stay that way. Page of Swords brings information to light, exposes what was hidden, reveals what was secret. The sword in this card cuts through illusion, and this person's biggest illusion was that they had power, that they were in control, that their rituals were working, that they were operating safely in the shadows. Page of Swords is cutting through all of that, revealing the truth of their powerlessness, their lack of control, their complete vulnerability in the face of the divine forces that protect you. Every illusion they held is being sliced away by the sword of truth. The clouds and wind in the Page of Swords card represent mental energy, thoughts, communication moving through the air. I'm seeing this as the energetic communication that's happening right now, messages being sent through spiritual channels that this person cannot ignore. Every time they think about what happened, every time they remember your photo flying through the air, they're receiving the message again. You are protected, you are untouchable, you were never within their reach. Let me pull the next card, because we need to understand what's happening with their leadership, their sense of being in control, their belief that they were directing this entire operation. The High Priestess is coming through, and Taurus, this card appearing right now, is giving me absolute chills because the High Priestess represents divine feminine wisdom, sacred knowledge, mysteries revealed, spiritual truth that cannot be denied. And what this card is showing me in this position is that there are deeper spiritual truths at work here that this person has been completely blind to, mysteries they never understood, divine protection surrounding you that they couldn't perceive. The High Priestess sits between two pillars representing the gateway to spiritual knowledge, to hidden truths, to sacred understanding. And what this card is revealing is that while this person was performing their little rituals, thinking they understood how energy works, thinking they knew what they were doing, there were massive spiritual truths they were completely ignorant of. They were playing with surface-level darkness while being completely unaware of the deep, profound spiritual protection that surrounds you. What's really powerful about the High Priestess here is that she represents intuition, inner knowing, connection to divine feminine energy. And Taurus, your earth sign energy, is so deeply connected to the divine feminine, to the Empress and High Priestess energies of the tarot. You are protected by these forces inherently, by your very nature. This person tried to attack someone who is literally aligned with the most sacred feminine mysteries of the universe, someone who is protected by the very essence of spiritual wisdom itself. The High Priestess is showing me that your protection isn't just casual. It isn't just general good vibes or positive energy. You are specifically protected by ancient, sacred, deeply mysterious spiritual forces that this person couldn't even begin to comprehend. They were trying to affect someone who is held in the hands of the divine feminine, someone who is connected to mysteries that have been sacred for thousands of years. The audacity of even attempting that is being revealed to them now. The scroll in the High Priestess's lap represents hidden knowledge, sacred texts, spiritual truth that must be earned and cannot be stolen. This person tried to use stolen methods, borrowed dark practices, surface-level understanding of how to manipulate energy. But the High Priestess is revealing that real spiritual power, true sacred knowledge, deep mystery, cannot be accessed through the paths they were taking. They were locked out of real understanding from the beginning. What the High Priestess is also showing me is that there is a feminine energy, possibly a spiritual guide, possibly a divine feminine force, possibly even just the universe's feminine aspect itself, that has been specifically protecting you throughout all of this. This person was fighting against divine feminine wisdom without even knowing it. They thought they were just trying to affect one person, but they were actually standing against sacred mysteries, ancient protection, spiritual forces that have existed since the beginning of time. The moon at the High Priestess's feet represents intuition, cycles, divine timing, spiritual rhythm. And what this tells me is that everything that has happened, including the tower moment when your photo flew away, happened at exactly the right time according to divine cycles, according to spiritual timing that this person couldn't manipulate or predict. They were working by their own timeline, following their own schedule. But the universe was operating on divine timing, waiting for the exact perfect moment to reveal the truth. I'm seeing the High Priestess as this calm, serene, utterly powerful presence that has been watching over you this entire time. While chaos was being directed at you, while dark intentions were being focused on you, while your photo was sitting in the center of negative rituals, the High Priestess energy was surrounding you with such profound spiritual protection that none of it could touch you. The veil behind her represents the thin barrier between physical and spiritual realities, and your protection exists in both realms simultaneously. The High Priestess also represents secrets being kept and secrets being revealed. This person's secret practices, their hidden rituals, their private obsession with trying to harm you, all of these secrets are now in the process of being revealed through the High Priestess's influence. What was hidden is coming to light. What was secret is being exposed. What was done in darkness is being brought into spiritual illumination. Now I need to pull the next card because we need to understand what's happening with their mental state, their understanding, their cognitive processing of all these events that have occurred. 8 of Swords is coming through. And Taurus, this card could not be more perfect in this position because it represents being trapped, feeling powerless, being imprisoned by one's own thoughts, and believing there's no way out. The figure in this card is blindfolded and bound, surrounded by swords, appearing to be completely trapped, even though they could actually step away if they could see clearly. And this is exactly the state this person is in right now. 8 of Swords is showing me that after everything that's happened, after the tower struck, after the devil revealed their bondage, after the High Priestess exposed the depth of spiritual protection around you, this person is now mentally trapped in a prison of their own making. They're surrounded by the very thoughts, fears, and realizations that are binding them more effectively than any physical chains could. The blindfold in this card represents their inability to see truth, their refusal to accept reality, their desperate clinging to the belief that somehow they still have some power or control. But more than that, it represents how they've blinded themselves to the obvious solution. Stop, walk away, cease these practices, leave you alone. They can't see this option because their obsession has literally blinded them to any path that doesn't involve trying to affect you somehow. What's really significant about 8 of Swords appearing after all these other cards is that it shows how this person has gone from feeling powerful with their 5 of Cups rituals, to experiencing the tower destruction, to recognizing the devil's chains, to being watched by Page of Swords, to being faced with the High Priestess's mysteries. And now they're completely mentally paralyzed. They don't know what to do. They're trapped in their own fear, bound by their own thoughts, imprisoned by their own understanding of what they've done and what's happening to them. The swords surrounding the figure represent thoughts, mental constructs, fears, realizations, all the things filling their mind right now. Every sword is a different terrifying thought. What have I done? What are these forces I've been dealing with? Why did that photo fly away? What's protecting this person? Am I in danger? What's going to happen to me? These thoughts are literally forming a prison around them, and they can't escape because they're coming from inside their own mind. Eight of Swords also shows restricted movement, feeling unable to act, being paralyzed by fear and confusion. This person is now stuck, unable to move forward with their rituals because they're terrified after what happened, but also unable to move away from their obsession because the devil's chains are holding them. They're caught between their fear of continuing and their inability to stop, trapped in a mental space that's absolutely torturous. The muddy ground beneath the figure's feet in Eight of Swords represents confusion, unclear foundation, standing on unstable ground. After your photo flew away, after everything they believed was revealed to be false, this person is standing on mental and spiritual ground that feels completely unstable. They don't know what's real anymore. They don't know what they can trust. They don't know what's safe. Everything they thought they understood has been shaken to its foundation. What Eight of Swords is also revealing is that this person is now their own worst enemy. The swords aren't being held by someone else. They're not being actively imposed from outside. They're just standing there surrounding this person, and it's their own fear, their own thoughts, their own mental state that's keeping them trapped. They've created their own prison through their choices, their actions, their intentions, and now they're locked inside it. I'm seeing this person literally unable to sleep properly, unable to focus on anything else, unable to escape the constant mental replay of what happened when your photo flew away. They're obsessively trying to understand it, trying to rationalize it, trying to fit it into their understanding of how things work. But Eight of Swords shows that they can't figure it out because they don't have the spiritual sight to perceive the truth. They're blindfolded, unable to see the bigger picture, unable to understand the forces they've been dealing with. The castle in the distant background of Eight of Swords represents safety, security, a way out, but the figure can't see it because of the blindfold. This tells me that there is a way out for this person. There is a path to freedom from this mess they've created. But they can't see it because their obsession, their ego, their stubborn refusal to accept that they were wrong. These things are keeping them blind to the obvious solution. Let me pull the next card because we need to see what the spiritual forces that protect you are doing right now. What's happening on that level of reality? Four of Swords is coming through, and this is such an interesting card in this position because Four of Swords represents rest, recovery, sanctuary, spiritual retreat, and protection during times of healing. But in this context, after everything we've seen, this card is showing me that while this person is trapped in Eight of Swords mental prison, you are being held in spiritual sanctuary, resting in divine protection, recovering in sacred space. The figure in Four of Swords lies in repose. Three swords on the wall above them representing previous battles that are over. One sword beneath them representing continued vigilance. This is showing me that the spiritual forces protecting you have placed you in a state of sacred rest, a space where you're protected while you continue your journey. You're not fighting, you're not struggling, you're not engaged in battle with this person. You're resting, recovering, being held in spiritual safety, while divine forces handle everything else. What's really beautiful about Four of Swords here is that it shows the complete opposite of Eight of Swords. While this person is trapped in mental prison, unable to rest, tormented by thoughts and fears, you are in sanctuary, at peace, resting in divine protection. The contrast couldn't be more stark or more perfect. They're suffering in self-created imprisonment while you're resting in divinely provided sanctuary. Four of Swords also represents a time of meditation, contemplation, spiritual retreat. This tells me that on some level, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, you've been in a space of spiritual protection where you've been shielded from the full awareness of what's been happening. You haven't been tormented by knowledge of their rituals. You haven't been kept awake by thoughts of their attacks. You haven't been drained by engaging with their negative energy. The Four of Swords protection has kept you in a state of peace, even while all of this was occurring around you. The stained glass window above the figure in Four of Swords often depicts a spiritual figure, representing divine presence, sacred protection, spiritual oversight. This is showing that your sanctuary, your rest, your protection, it's all held within sacred space, blessed by divine presence, watched over by spiritual forces. This person's rituals were happening in the dark, in secret, in shadowy places. Your protection is happening in the light, in sacred space, under the direct blessing of the divine. What Four of Swords is also revealing is strategic retreat, stepping back to regain strength, resting before the next phase of battle. But in your case, Taurus, it's not that you're preparing to fight this person, it's that you're being prepared for your next level of advancement. The spiritual forces that protect you have placed you in this sanctuary, not because you're weak, but because you're being prepared for elevation, for advancement, for moving into a new phase of your journey that requires you to be rested and ready. The horizontal position of the figure in Four of Swords represents surrender to divine will, trust in spiritual protection, allowing yourself to be held and protected without needing to do it all yourself. This is such a powerful message, Taurus, because it shows that you don't need to fight these battles, you don't need to protect yourself against these attacks, you don't need to know about every negative thing being directed at you. The divine is handling it all while you rest in sacred sanctuary. I'm seeing this beautiful image of you being held in spiritual safety, completely unaware of the chaos this person has been trying to create, completely untouched by their negative intentions, resting peacefully while divine forces dismantle every single thing they tried to build against you. Four of Swords is showing that your protection includes being shielded from even the knowledge of the full extent of what was being done, being kept in peace while spiritual justice unfolds. The three swords on the wall represent battles that are already over, conflicts that have been resolved, attacks that have been neutralized. Every ritual this person performed, every negative intention they sent your way, every attempt to bind or harm you, these are already finished, already dealt with, already rendered powerless. The swords are on the wall like trophies, like reminders of victories already won, battles you didn't even have to fight because they were fought on your behalf. Four of Swords also represents a space of healing. And what this tells me is that even if there were any tiny effects from this person's negative energy, even if there were any slight impacts on your field, this sanctuary time is healing all of that. You're being restored, replenished, brought back to complete wholeness in this sacred space. The divine protection surrounding you isn't just blocking future attacks, it's actively healing any residual energy from past attempts. What's really significant about Four of Swords appearing in the sequence is that it shows how you've been operating from a completely different energy than this person. They've been in chaos, obsession, fear, bondage. You've been in peace, rest, sanctuary, divine protection. They've been expending massive amounts of energy trying to affect you. You've been conserving your energy, resting, allowing yourself to be held and protected. The difference in these approaches is night and day. Let me pull the next card because we need to understand what's coming next, what the outcome of all of this is going to be, what's about to unfold as a result of everything that's happened. Two of Pentacles is coming through, and this card represents balance, juggling multiple things, managing opposing forces, adaptability, and maintaining equilibrium despite chaos. And what Two of Pentacles is showing me in this position is absolutely fascinating because it's revealing what's happening with this person right now as they try to manage the complete disaster their rituals have become. The figure in Two of Pentacles is juggling two pentacles, trying to keep everything in motion, trying to maintain balance while standing on unstable ground with waves crashing behind them. This is exactly where this person is right now. They're desperately trying to juggle their fear and their obsession, trying to balance their terror of what happened with their inability to let go of their fixation on you, trying to manage the chaos they've created while pretending everything is fine. What's really significant about Two of Pentacles here is that it shows someone who is stretched too thin, trying to maintain too many things at once, putting on a performance of having everything under control when actually everything is on the verge of falling apart. This person is trying to juggle their normal life with their secret practices, their public persona, with their private obsessions, their fear with their pride, their desire to stop with their compulsion to continue. The infinity symbol connecting the two pentacles represents endless cycles, perpetual motion, being caught in a loop. And this is showing me that this person is now trapped in a cycle they can't break. They're caught in an endless loop of obsession and fear, of wanting to try again and being terrified to try again, of needing to stop and being unable to stop. Two of Pentacles reveals that they're spinning in this cycle, juggling these opposing forces, unable to find stable ground. The waves behind the figure represent emotional turmoil, the constant movement of feelings, the instability of their inner world. After everything that's happened, after the Tower moment, after realizing the devil's chains, after being trapped in Eight of Swords mental prison, this person's emotional state is like those waves, constantly churning, never calm, never settled. They're trying to maintain balance on the surface, while underneath everything is chaos. What Two of Pentacles is also revealing is that this person is now trying to manage external appearances, while internally everything is falling apart. They're trying to act normal, trying to pretend everything is fine, trying to keep juggling all the different aspects of their life, while secretly they're terrified, confused, trapped in mental prison, bound by dark energies they can't escape. The performance of normalcy is taking enormous energy, while their inner world is complete turmoil. The playful aspect of Two of Pentacles, the dancing quality of the figure, shows someone trying to make light of serious situations, trying to act casual about things that are actually devastating them. I'm seeing this person maybe making jokes, acting like they're fine, putting on a show of not being affected, when actually they're desperately trying to keep all their fears and realizations from spilling out into their daily life. Two of Pentacles in this position is also showing me that this person is now trying to juggle whether to continue their practices or stop completely. Part of them knows they should stop, knows they've gotten in over their head, knows they're dealing with forces beyond their control. But another part of them, the part that's bound by the devil's chains, the part that's obsessed with you, that part is pushing them to try again, to perform another ritual, to attempt once more to exert control. They're juggling these two opposing impulses constantly. The material aspect of Pentacles combined with the number two's duality is showing me that this person is also trying to balance their material life, their day-to-day reality, with the spiritual mess they've created. They're trying to go to work, maintain relationships, do normal activities, all while carrying this enormous secret burden of what they've been doing, what happened, what they're dealing with now. The juggling act is exhausting them. What's really important about Two of Pentacles appearing here is that it shows instability masked as balance. This person looks like they're handling things, looks like they're maintaining equilibrium, but it's all an illusion. One wrong move, one more unexpected event, one more revelation, and the whole juggling act comes crashing down. They're one moment away from dropping everything they're trying to hold up. Now let me pull the final card because we need to see the ultimate outcome, the final message about where all of this is leading, what the conclusion of this entire situation is going to be. The Hanged Man is coming through as our final card, and Taurus, when I saw this card appear, I literally had to pause because the message here is so profound, so perfectly suited to wrapping up everything we've seen. The Hanged Man represents suspension, being stuck in limbo, seeing things from a completely different perspective, sacrifice, and being unable to move forward or backward. And this is showing me exactly where this person is going to end up as a result of everything they've done. The Hanged Man hangs upside down, one leg crossed over the other, hands behind the back, suspended from a living tree. This person is now in a state of complete suspension. They can't move forward with their rituals because they're terrified after what happened. They can't move backward and undo what they've done because the devil's chains won't release them. They can't escape their obsession with you because it's become their identity. They're literally hanging in limbo, suspended in a state that's absolutely torturous for them. What's really significant about the Hanged Man is that it represents forced perspective shift, being made to see things from an entirely different angle. This person is now forced to see the truth of what they've been doing, forced to recognize their powerlessness, forced to understand that they were never in control. Their entire perspective has been flipped upside down, and the Hanged Man shows that they're stuck in this new perspective, unable to return to their old way of seeing things. The serenity on the Hanged Man's face in the traditional imagery represents acceptance of the suspension, surrender to the situation. But I'm not seeing that serenity with this person. Instead, I'm seeing struggle, resistance, desperate attempts to break free from this suspended state. They want to move, want to act, want to do something, but they're completely stuck, hanging in this limbo space where no action is possible. The Hanged Man also represents sacrifice, giving something up, paying a price. And what this card is revealing is that this person is now sacrificing their peace, their mental stability, their spiritual well-being, all because of their choices. They sacrificed their own freedom when they tried to bind you. They sacrificed their own peace when they declared war on someone under divine protection. They sacrificed their own spiritual safety when they engaged in dark practices. The Hanged Man shows that the sacrifice has been made, the price is being paid, and there's no taking it back. The living tree from which the Hanged Man hangs represents life continuing around the suspended figure, time moving forward while they remain stuck. This is showing me that while this person is hanging in this limbo state, unable to move forward, unable to break free, life is continuing. You're moving forward in your sanctuary, protected by Four of Swords. The universe is continuing its cycles. Time is passing, but they're stuck, suspended, watching everything continue while they remain frozen in this terrible state. What's really powerful about the Hanged Man as the final card is that it shows there's no quick resolution for this person. They're not going to suddenly break free, not going to easily escape the consequences of their actions, not going to magically find a way out of the mess they've created. They're suspended, and that suspension is going to continue for as long as it needs to for the lesson to be learned, for the perspective to fully shift, for the consequences to be fully felt. The inverted perspective of the Hanged Man also represents seeing the truth of things, understanding reality from a new angle. This person is being forced to see the truth of their powerlessness, the reality of divine protection around you, the actual nature of the forces they were trying to manipulate. They're seeing everything from this new upside-down perspective, and what they're seeing is devastating to their ego, their pride, their sense of self. The Hanged Man represents a waiting period, a pause, a suspension before the next phase. For this person, this waiting is torture because they're action-oriented. They want to do something. They need to feel in control. But the Hanged Man forces stillness, forces waiting, forces suspension. They're hanging there, watching, waiting, unable to move, unable to escape, suspended between what they were and what they're becoming as a result of all this. What the Hanged Man is ultimately showing me as the final outcome is that this person is going to remain in this state of suspension, this limbo of fear and obsession and inability to move, until they truly learn the lesson they need to learn. Until they genuinely understand that you were always beyond their reach, that their power was always an illusion, that dark practices bring dark consequences. They're going to remain hanging in this terrible, suspended state. The halo around the Hanged Man's head represents enlightenment, spiritual understanding, but it comes through sacrifice and suspension. Eventually, if this person can truly surrender, truly accept their powerlessness, truly learn from this experience, there might be enlightenment on the other side. But the path to that enlightenment requires them to hang in this uncomfortable position for as long as it takes for true transformation to occur. So Taurus, let me bring all of this together for you, because the story these cards have told is absolutely extraordinary. Someone who felt they had power over you, who performed rituals with your photo at the center, who tried to bind you and control your path, discovered in the most dramatic way possible that you are protected by forces they couldn't even begin to comprehend. Your photo literally flew away during their ritual. The tower struck, their entire belief system shattered. They discovered they were bound by the devil's chains, not you. They found themselves trapped in 8 of Swords' mental prison of their own making. They're now juggling 2 of Pentacles, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy, while internally everything is chaos. And ultimately, they're suspended in the Hanged Man's limbo, stuck, unable to move forward or backward, forced to hang there and face the consequences of trying to harm someone who is held in divine sanctuary. Meanwhile, you've been resting in 4 of Swords protection, held in sacred space, moving forward in the chariot under divine guidance, protected by the High Priestess mysteries, watched over by forces this person never even knew existed. The contrast between your experience and theirs couldn't be more stark. They're in torment while you're in sanctuary. They're trapped while you're advancing. They're suffering consequences while you're receiving blessings. The message here is so clear, Taurus. You don't need to worry about this person anymore. You don't need to think about their rituals or their intentions. You don't need to engage with their energy at all. The divine has handled it completely. Your protection is absolute. Your path is secured. Your advancement is guaranteed. This person's attempt to harm you has become their own prison, their own suspension, their own nightmare. And for anyone watching this who might be going through something similar, who might feel like someone is working against them, trying to bind them, directing negative energy their way, I want you to take hope from this reading. When you're aligned with your path, when you're connected to your purpose, when you're walking in your truth, you are protected by forces that no dark practice can touch. You are held in sanctuary even when chaos swirls around you. You are advancing even when others try to hold you back. The universe protects those who are living in alignment. Divine forces guard those who are moving toward their highest good. Sacred mysteries surround those who are connected to spiritual truth. You cannot be bound by someone who operates from fear and control. You cannot be harmed by practices that go against universal law. You are safe, you are protected, you are held in love and light that no darkness can penetrate.